talk on Resilient Sri Lanka, The Changing Horizon by Nalin Wijetilleke. Nalin Wijetilleke is the Director and Principal Consultant at Continuity New Zealand, a New Zealand-based business continuity management and disaster management consulting and training entity. Prior to launching his own company late last year, Nalin was with KPMG New Zealand as a senior manager since 2012. Nalin has held several leadership positions in leading banks both in Sri Lanka and in Dubai prior to moving to New Zealand. Nalin is an alumni of St. Aloysius College, Gore, Sri Lanka, the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura, Sri Lanka, and the University of Oulu in Finland. He has several prestigious professional qualifications in information systems audit, information security, business continuity management, disaster management, and in project management. Nalin has been a local and international speaker and a presenter at various conferences, including in the United States, Japan, South Africa, United Arab Emirates, India, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Australia, and New Zealand. In recognition of his contribution in the professional field, he has also received several international awards. Nalin is a keen yoga practitioner and a certified yoga instructor. So, without further ado, please give a warm welcome to Nalin Wijetilleke.
Member of Parliament, and ladies and gentlemen, are you all? Lanka. Kia ora. Welcome everyone. Thank you very much first of all for inviting me to deliver this keynote address. I thank the President of Sri Lanka Association as well as the committee to inviting me. I hope everyone can see this. Okay, so let's start. The word resilient. I'm going to talk about resilient Sri Lanka, the changing horizon. The word resilient, when you talk, immediately another word that comes to our mind is disruption, crisis, disasters. The world today has undergone changes and it's continuously changing in so many different areas, so many different aspects. Some countries which had experienced disruptions and disasters are still recovering. A country which was so well prepared was Japan. The Fukushima nuclear earthquake and the nuclear disaster still has impact on the country and the community and the economy of Japan. They are still recovering. There is so much of disasters, disruptions, crisis happening every day. It can be natural disasters, it can be technological disasters, it can be people-created disasters, terrorism. So the world has changed. If you compare with 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it's changing. And we don't know, we cannot predict what would be the future. I would also like to mention about the industrial disasters. If you can recall, a couple of years ago, one of the worst industrial disasters happened in the world. That was in Bangladesh, the Rana Plaza. Within a matter of 10 minutes, 1,000 people were crushed to death. 8-story building pancaked. unless you are prepared and take necessary precautions, the damage, destruction is huge. So countries have today taken this very seriously. New Zealand, we all know, in 2011, the Christchurch disaster earthquake was a huge wake-up for people here, and there are a lot of work is being done. But let's look at today, our context is about Sri Lanka. When you talk about Sri Lanka, it's something unique. So many disruptions have happened, disasters have happened, crises have happened since we could remember. Sri Lanka underwent huge hardship, displacement of people during the World Wars I and II. There were food shortages. There were no milk food for children to be fed. People had to move from coastal areas to the interior of the country. That was in 30s and 40s. I'm talking of World War I and World War II. Then, as you know, we had experienced so much of disasters. So much of human life has been lost. But something unique compared with other countries. As a professional, my discipline is involving continuity of business and resilience of communities, organizations, etc. So when we talk of Sri Lanka, we can see that it's something very unique. That's why I thought it's more appropriate to talk about this to the Sri Lankan and foreign community this morning. So let's start with it's a cricket season. Everybody is talking about cricket, and welcome today. There's a match going on, Sri Lanka. Okay, let's talk about what Sir Ian Botham said. He's a legendary cricketer, and everyone knows about him. He said, we want to show our grandchildren that the life isn't easy, that terrible things happen, but you have to pick yourself up, dust yourself, and carry on. The Sri Lankans are the best example of this. They are always smiling, and there is no bitterness about the unfair hand they have been dealt. With the civil war and tsunami, they are the reason my wife keep and I keep returning. That itself talks so much. So this morning, I want to answer these 6 questions. That is the idea. What are the events of disruption? Just to get an idea, I mentioned a couple of things. Do we need to be prepared for these unexpected events? Has culture got to do something about it to help us to be prepared? Is Sri Lanka unique in disaster preparation and resilience? And what is changing? And what is that country and people have to do? And what are the going forward? What are the top priorities to reinforce what we have achieved, what we have done? So let's look at, I mentioned about resilience. So resilience is it applies to an individual, it applies to a community, it applies to a family, it applies to a business organization, it applies to countries. When you talk of individual, you see how complex it is to be prepared to get that mindset. We may have a personal disaster. We may experience a fire. After recently, some Sri Lankan house family had to experience this. The house was burned completely. So these are disasters from a personal point of view. When you talk about organization, businesses, every day we hear. So that's why today it has become a discipline. It's a management discipline like accounting or any other management discipline. Business continuity, disaster recovery, crisis management, risk management, these are all coming under the ambit of risk management. So actually it became a major discipline somewhere in 2000, after the 9/11, 2001, the World Trade Center bombing created a lot of thinking, and thereafter it became a major discipline where it is taught in universities. Right. So this is the snapshot of Sri Lanka in 1996, and a couple of years later, Central Bank of Sri Lanka. If you go to Sri Lanka Central Bank, it's a modern, state-of-the-art, new building. So they keep on trying that it was destroyed completely. So many people lost their lives, so many people became incapacitated. But they had the courage, and today they are enjoying very state-of-the-art building with modern facilities. So they did resilience. So let's get the context right. Let's look at Sri Lanka. It's a very small country, very tiny country compared with all the countries around us, around Sri Lanka. It's a member of the Commonwealth nation. The land area is only 65,000 square kilometers. So you see how much small. The South Island of New Zealand is around 151 square kilometers. So it's nearly 2.5 times of Sri Lanka. So just to get the picture right. And we have, because everyone knows the commercial capital is Colombo, with nearly 700,000 people, and official languages are Sinhalese and Kannada, and English is spoken in the mercantile sector, and a lot of work is being practically work in the private sector is done in English. So it's a good opportunity for foreign investors to, and that's why it's a friendly society nation for foreign investors to work in Sri Lanka. And something again unique is Sri Lankan literacy rate is latest statistics 98.1, one of the highest literate countries in the world, and of course the GDP figures are there, and main other crops, commercial crops are basically tea and rubber and spices, and exports amount 10.3. So even some destruction in Sri Lanka, everyone is clear in their memory about the tsunami, 2004 Boxing Day tsunami. So many people died. I think around 35,000 people lost life, and about 500,000 people were displaced. But if you go to Sri Lanka now, you cannot even find a trace of what has happened. It has changed. New buildings have come, new houses have come, people have forgotten about that. We will see why it is in a moment. Then of course we had a prolonged ethnic conflict, 23 years. Nearly 80,000 to 100,000 people lost their life. So many hundreds of thousands of civilian and the service personnel got incapacitated. People got displaced. Then we had the malaria epidemic in 1934. Again, about 100,000 people suffered. And of course, on top of that, due to the geographic location of Sri Lanka, it is constantly exposed to meteorological pressures, environmental pressures. So as a result, every now and then you will see a flood, you will see a drought, you will see a cyclone, you will see a earthquake. It's very common. So many people get affected. So many families get affected. But still, people have accepted that, but there's a lot of work has been done to make them prepared, make them ready, make them realize that certain things you can prevent, certain things you cannot prevent, but what is important is to be ready. Let's look at some of the hazard profile of Sri Lanka. It's very important to get the perspective and the storms. This is just a high-level picture of disruptions and disasters. So biggest threat is the floods, and frequency of occurrence has increased over the last 10 years. Statistics show. We don't know the cause, maybe global warming. So these are reasons. Countries get affected. Indonesia get affected. Japan get affected. Maldives get affected. Some of the European countries get affected. Low-lying countries which are exposed to Sri Lanka has a sea right now. So moment sea level rises, it affects the country, and it's subjected to all, as I said, the winds and the Bay of Bengal, the pressure depressions and all that affects the country very badly. So people in Sri Lanka has the right attitude, as you saw what Sir Ian Botham has said. That's a very important thing. As a professional in disaster management, one of the things, primary things to consider or look at is the people's attitude, what people think and how they people think is very important. Your mindset is the most important thing. Here, in Sri Lanka is something unique. One is because historical evidence is there. They had, if you look at the Sri Lankan kings many thousands of years ago, they had the foresight and thinking to look at these disruptions and disasters in a very practical way. That's why huge dams and reservoirs have been built. Over the years, they started constructing those, and even today they have evidence that there have been 10,000 such dams and reservoirs and tanks in Sri Lanka. One is to prevent flooding, and two, when there is a drought, to provide water for irrigation. So how smart they were. And today, of course, we are thinking with a lot of knowledge, a lot of understanding, a lot of awareness of risk management. We are trying to discipline some frameworks and approaches and all that. But kings of the country at that time had that vision and foresight. So that is one. Then also, it's something unique. If something happens to your neighbor or some your colleague or other people, don't look the other way and walk away. They help, they come, they give the support, they ask what assistance you need. So when the tsunami happens, so many small clusters, they got together, they provided food, they provided clothing, they provided shelter, they provided comfort, talking to people. So many organizations, and mostly done voluntary, nothing for any commercial or profit. So that's one of them. Then another thing is, these are some of the things, actually there is no empirical evidence so far. It's a good opportunity for somebody to do some deep research into it, but these are some evidence is available. So that's what I am talking about it and presenting to you this morning. The other thing is the religious influence. Sri Lanka predominantly has a Buddhist culture, and the culture is built on the 4 Samlan states. Actually, it was mentioned in the President's message a while ago. Metta, Karuna, Mudita, Upekkha. That is loving kindness, compassion, the Upekkha means to rejoice with others, and the 4th one is equanimity. So the culture is built on that. And in such a culture, when disasters happen, when something unforeseen happens, when crises happen, people try to help, people try to give, people try to console. So this is one of the things which is not so much seen in many societies and many cultures. So this helped the country to quickly get back to normalcy. And then, of course, as I mentioned, the positive attitude. I had gone, so I was not in the country when the tsunami happened, but 4 months after that, I went to Sri accident or event or unforeseen event as something which was unavoidable, and they had to dust themselves and gather the loose ends and move forward. So that is very, very important. That was something very unique. Another thing is, most of the people who had got affected, I spoke with them, I went to their houses, they did not bother too much about they had lost their belongings, because most of the Sri Lankans don't keep on accumulating things, except those people who have come out of the country. They don't accumulate a lot of physical, material things in their houses. Of course, now you might get a television set or a mobile phone. That's the only thing they have. They don't keep on accumulating. So it doesn't matter. So this is one of the unique things. If you keep on accumulating, your mindset is, oh, I want to save this, I want to save that. They live a very righteous life and not accumulating things and piling up. So nothing to worry. So this is one of the things. But the most important thing is they take care of the family. That's very important. Okay. So then I mentioned about the public and social infrastructure. It's unique. 5 minutes. It's unique. It's one of the countries, few countries, I would say only 2 countries in the world which gives free education from the kindergarten to the final year of the university. One is Sri Lanka and other one is Finland. These are the only 2 countries I know which gives completely free education. Me and most of you are beneficiaries of it. So that helps the governments, the administrators to convey things correctly, and people can use their judgment. So using some of the statistics, whether you can see, Sri Lanka has 98.1, the recent one, and compared with our neighboring countries. Singapore is only 95.9, 96%. Thailand 93.5, India is 74.4, and Pakistan is 55%. New Zealand is 99%. So this gives a perspective where we stand. See, these are positive things which can be used to leverage our march, our journey forward. And one is the free health services. The health services, because of that, we have been able to eradicate most of the diseases like polio, TB, cholera. It's not there. Of course, from time to time, diseases come and problems occur, but people get together and there now North Central promise there is kidney diseases going on. But people, a lot of volunteer groups have come together and they are helping to people to educate them. Rainwater harvesting and things like that are going on, and so people are really conscious and everyone is coming together. I think a lot of money has been sent from New Zealand also to that project. Then there is a dengue fever which became rampant, now it's very much under control and people are conscious about it. So these things happen, it's natural, but what is important is to be the right attitude, right awareness, and able to recover and be resilient. Then there is urban poverty, which again, sometimes these things create problems. Sri Lanka don't have that problem very much. It is very much under control. You don't get slums. If you go to most of the countries like Bangladesh or some parts of Bombay, slums, full of slums, but we don't have that. Sri Lanka don't have that. So this is an attitude of mine, and it's the culture. The other thing is actually sense of cleanliness. Even if you go to the remotest house in Sri Lanka, the furthest away as much as possible, and go and see how clean it is. They are very conscious. So these are things which help to eradicate any diseases. So talking about it, and preparedness for unexpected events is going on, and there is a lot of community information is shared, people are gathered in the evenings and during their free time, and there are a lot of voluntary work is going on. And people are far more prepared than before tsunami time. If something happens, they are prepared. But that is not the this is not a continuity, disaster preparedness is not a one-off thing, it is a journey, it is ongoing. So today you may have some preparedness, but tomorrow if you neglect, you don't know, it really the crisis disaster could hit you and destroy. So it's an ongoing journey. And then of course, is one of the few countries which has actually disaster preparedness is coming under a cabinet minister. So there is a minister in charge, and also there is a department, National Center for Disaster Preparedness in Sri Lanka. Actually, even New Zealand has, and so these are good things. So there are a lot of things they can learn from countries like New Zealand, because New Zealand also is very conscious of them, and they have the University of Canterbury has this program called Resilient Org under Dr. Erica Seville. So much work is going on in various countries, but Sri Lanka can make use of that knowledge, the best practice, and leverage on those. So this is about, I mentioned about this, the changing horizon, the technology, the globalization, all this has a huge impact on the society, economy, and have a cascading impact on the resilience. The vulnerability increases. So when the vulnerability increases, it can, weakest point, it breaks. So that is the one which causes a crisis. So world is become more complex. It was not so, as I said, 20 years ago, 50 years ago. And predictability, of course, decreases with time. You cannot predict, because as the world is changing, world is becoming so complex, you cannot plan for next, forget about 10 years, even 5 years you cannot plan. You don't know what's in store. So something, it breaks at the weakest point. There's a very interesting saying called chain is strong as its weakest link. So any weakest link in the system, it can be social system, it can be technological system, it can be any medical system, it breaks at the weakest link, and that is the strength of the chain. So only certainty is uncertainty. So what is important is to be prepared. So there are 5 internal concerns which need to be concerned about in Sri Lanka. One is social and communal harmony is so important. Actually at the topmost level, they have to be very conscious and considerate, have social infrastructure plans to bring. Yes, Sri Lanka is a multi-communal, multi-religious, multicultural society. So all these groups have been grown, and everyone should see a future and a prosperity. Every child should see, a girl or a boy should see how he or she could achieve their aspirations of life. So these are things which have to be very seriously considered if we need harmony and disaster-free country, safe Sri Lanka. The other thing is unionized labor. These are there are so many, but these are the internal areas. Sri Lanka is a democratic country. People, the workers, the employees have, of course, right to say, right to speak. So they have formed sometimes unions, so this has to be managed. So could this managed? Every country, democratic country has a unionized labor. It has to be managed. The other one is employment. Employment figures are around 5.6% in Sri Lanka, which is quite good. Unemployment figures, and it has to be maintained and bring it down as much as possible. So these are the things, of course, very easy for us to say, but government, state has to be very conscious of that. Other and the fuel distribution. These have to be used very, very intelligently, so that it doesn't disrupt the normal day-to-day life. So of course, there is Sri Lanka's power, 50% is hydro electricity. It's very, very good, and the rest is from turbine and renewable gas, renewable energy, like wind and all that. But it's a very small percent, has to be increased, because if you want to reduce the carbon emission, it's very important, because that has a chain reaction, cascade impact on the environment. So these are the things which need to be considered going forward. So in conclusion, what I say is, resilience is not a one-off activity, it is a strategic direction, strategic initiative, and it has to be right at the top, at presidential level, any country. And Sri Lanka is in that path. It's coming under the president, but there's a cabinet minister for disaster management. And in the past, it has demonstrated very well, but going forward, it has to strengthen, not just go at the same pace, it has to be strengthened. And key changes introduced by successive governments had a very positive impact, and it has really, you can see the results. And disaster management policies, frameworks, guidelines and practices have to be strengthened, and it has to be benchmarked, monitored against other best practices, against what other countries are doing. So these are some of the few things which we need to consider. So with that, I finish my presentation. So if I have a script, it's a fairly lengthy script, and it is in my website, and the PowerPoint slides also will be available.